What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, Joy Speaks, a channel that I created to provide a voice for the recovery community. And when I say recovery community, I'm referring to people who are struggling with substance abuse, alcohol, mental health issues, and their loved ones. Because as we know, it's not just the addict or the alcoholic who's affected, but also the community that surrounds them. Before I get started, I want to ask you guys a big favor. Please hit like, hit share, and hit subscribe. Hitting subscribe will cost you absolutely nothing. You won't be charged a fee. All that will happen is you will have access to everything I have going on with my channel. And if you hit the notifications button, you'll be notified every single time I put out some fresh content. So thank you to everyone who have subscribed so far. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your engagement. It is much, much appreciated. And today's topic of discussion is contrary action. Contrary action, this idea, this mindset, this principle, this way of thinking has been a game changer in my recovery. And if you're new to my channel, I have just over 3.5 years clean and sober from drugs and alcohol. And what I do here is I just talk about my journey, I talk about some of my experiences, and we just try to have some insightful conversations around topics and ideas that normally don't get discussed. So like I said, contrary action has been a game changer for me. And I can say that contrary action started at the very beginning of my recovery. And before I get into that, I just kind of want to define what contrary action means to me. So contrary action, quite simply, contrary means opposite, right? And then everybody knows what action means. So contrary action or opposite action have really helped me navigate and grow and evolve through my process in recovery and sobriety. And I want to say the most important contrary action that I took in my first 30, 60, or even 90 days of sobriety and recovery was to not get high, to not pick up a substance, and to not use and abuse. So let me just break this down, right? If my desire is to become under the influence, to pick up a substance, to numb my feelings away, if that's the desire that I feel at the moment, then the contrary action to that is to stay sober, right? Or to stay clean, or to not pick up. And so the most important contrary action for anybody new in recovery is to stay sober, to remain abstinent, which means to not ingest any toxins, any substances, and not reset your clean time. So some other contrary actions that we can take when we're feeling like picking up and using are to attend a meeting. And when I say attend a meeting, I mean there are 12-step fellowships all across the country for all different levels of addiction, from one substance to another, to behavior, to mental health. There are 12-step fellowships for just about anything and everything. So first you need to be able to identify what you have a problem with, right? So for example, if I have a problem with alcohol, then I'm probably going to attend an Alcoholic Anonymous meeting. Alcoholic Anonymous meetings are available on Zoom. They're available on person. You can just look it up. But I'm not here to promote AA. I'm just using that as an example, right? So if you're feeling like picking up, you're feeling triggered, you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling like numbing your feelings away, and hypothetically you have a problem with alcohol, then you're going to attend an Alcoholic Anonymous meeting. Another contrary action when you're feeling like picking up a substance is to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call somebody. Perhaps you are navigating your recovery or your sobriety with someone else. Pick up somebody that will hold you accountable and just let them know, hey, today I'm feeling uncomfortable. Today I'm feeling uneasy and unsure, and I'm actually thinking about picking up a drink. Making that decision to take that contrary action and not pick up a drink and pick up the phone can really change the outcome or the trajectory of the rest of your day. Right, so picking up the phone is a great contrary action to use, especially early on in recovery. Another great contrary action, outside of going to a meeting or picking up the phone, is meditation. Meditation is the practice of quieting the mind. And I know for me, I was addicted to multiple substances, and the majority of those substances happen to be stimulants. So in my early recovery, I had racing thoughts nonstop. I did not know how to slow my mind down. And so for me, meditation was a contrary action. Meditation gave me the opportunity to find some relief from within, to just slow my mind down. And so, mindful meditation is very helpful. There are breathing exercises that are also incorporated into meditation that really help you find that kind of mental, emotional peace and clarity, especially early on in your recovery. So that's another great contrary action is meditation. Another great contrary action to take is prayer. And listen, I'm not here to preach or be super religious, and I'm not per se a religious person, but I am very, very, very spiritual, and I do have a higher power that I choose to call God. And so, for me, taking a contrary action and asking my higher power for help, really, really, really made an overwhelming amount of impact on my early recovery, especially when it came to that obsession, those obsessive thoughts, those racing thoughts, those compulsive kind of feelings and desires. I was not able to stop picking up substances and alcohol on my own. I needed a divine intervention from a source greater than myself. And so I got to get to know that source, that higher power, through working a 12-step program. So a great contrary action, especially if you're feeling triggered and you're feeling like you don't have the capability from within yourself to stay sober, find a source greater than yourself and lean into that source. And that prayer can just be, hey, God, or, whoever your higher power is, I need help today. I'm struggling today. This is the same kind of dynamic as picking up the phone, right? Because what you're doing is you're taking all this internal turmoil and you're sharing it with someone else. And when we share about how we feel, we end up releasing some of the power from it. So whether you're sharing your struggles or your discomfort or your uncertainty with a fellow who's in sobriety, or with God, making that connection will help you get out of your head and help you kind of reevaluate what your next steps are going to be. And hopefully, your next steps will include something healthy and conducive to your sobriety and to your recovery. Another great contrary action to take is exercise. Listen, exercise has been so, so, so important for my recovery. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. There have been moments and phases in my recovery when I overdid it with the exercise. Not going to lie, just going to be honest. However, I understand the importance. I understand the importance today of getting my heart rate up and getting that endorphin release, because it's the same chemical reaction that we get to experience while running or while exercising that we experience when we're picking up and using. It's an endorphin release, right? So there's this thing called the runner's high, which I've talked about in previous videos. The runner's high is a real thing. You get your heart rate fast enough, your body releases endorphins. You start to feel good, right? That was so important for me, especially in my early recovery when I just, I felt like I was crawling out of my skin and I didn't know what to do. And I was having all these obsessive thoughts. And, to be honest, meditation took a while to take effect, on my mind and spirit. So those first 30, 60, 90 days of my sobriety, I was doing a lot of exercise, and what I would do is I would just go run or go hike or go exercise until, the craving left. And, once the craving left, I realized, hey, now I have this new opportunity to navigate feelings with this contrary action, right? So my mind and my body is telling me that I want this poisonous substance, but this contrary action of actually practicing some self-care and exercising and making myself feel good, was actually a lot healthier. So exercise is a wonderful contrary action to take. But fair warning, you want to exercise in moderation. You don't want to overdo it. There were times in my sobriety and in my recovery when I was exercising 7 days a week and I was exhausting myself. So as much as I still to this day, get a little bit uncomfortable with taking a rest day from the gym, I do it because I know that it's healthy. And so for me, there's another contrary action. So my mind and my body tells me that I need to work out 7 days a week, every single day, 365 days a year, so that I can feel good. But the contrary action is to take a day to rest. Take a day to rest, right? And so, you'll start to see and you'll start to kind of understand where we can take contrary actions in all areas of our life, with the intention and with the motivation to improve. Another great contrary action to take is listening to music. I can get lost in music. Music is like therapy for me. I love music. Like, I can't even put into words how much music has, just intertwined in every facet of my life, in every part of my fiber and being. I love dance. I love musical theater. I love to sing. And I just love music. I love the melodies. I love the harmonies. I love symphonies. I love classical. I love R&B. I'm super open-minded when it comes to music because it just does something to my spirit. And so, in those moments where I'm feeling like maybe I want to check out, maybe I want some kind of release, right? Maybe I've been, working really hard and, haven't been taking a lot of time to just kind of unplug. A great contrary action, instead of picking up a substance or a bottle, pick up your phone and pick up some headphones and turn on your favorite song and turn that volume all the way up and get lost in the music. I love to do that. In my active addiction, I was a club head. I was in clubs from LA to New York, and I would go from club to club to club, and then to the after hours, and then to the after hours. And so, today I have no desire to navigate my life that way, but I still have, a very, very strong love and appreciation and an affection for music. And so the contrary action for me can come in many ways as far as music goes. Sometimes I'm feeling angry, I'm gonna take a contrary action and listen to some music that channels that anger, right? And then I can kind of commiserate with the artist about whatever it is that artist is angry about, and then I can release some of those feelings that way, right? Or maybe I'm just feeling like celebrating, right? I'll listen to some of my favorite songs that make me feel free, make me feel happy, make me feel jubilant, make me feel celebratory, right? And so I can even experience a little bit of euphoria if I truly allow myself to be open-minded enough to experience the music in a way that frees my spirit and frees my soul. It's an incredible experience. Another really, really healthy and just fun and exciting contrary action, is listening to music. And you can use that to be contrary to pretty much any feeling you have, wanting to isolate, anger, sadness, happiness, boredom. Listen to some music. Let that music, infect your spirit, right? Get free, get silly, get loose, enjoy life. I didn't get clean and sober, right, to be dull and to be miserable. I still like to have a good time. And so one of the easiest ways for me to have a good time, or maybe just get out of myself, is to just listen to some of my favorite music. Another great contrary action is journaling. Journaling is really helpful because not only does it help you kind of release the feelings and the emotions and the thought processes that you have going on in your head, but then you also have this moment to go back and to reflect, right? So if I look at some of my journal entries from my first 30 or my first 60 or my first 90 days in recovery, if I look at those journal entries today, I'm able to access and experience so much gratitude because I look at how differently my life was, 3 years ago as opposed to where my life is now, right? So journaling is helpful in multiple ways because not only does it help you just kind of release whatever it is that may be having you feel overwhelmed at the time, but it also gives you some perspective, right? Some clear, honest perspective, right? Some of my journal entries, I just was like, I want to stop craving. I want to stop fiending. It seems like I'll never stop fiending. I can't tell you today, when's the last time I've had a craving, or I've been fiending for substances, right? And so how grateful is it? I mean, how grateful am I now, that today, I get to journal about stuff that has nothing to do with, the things that I was struggling with in early recovery. I get to journal about some of the blessings and the miracles and the bonuses that come along with, maintaining my sobriety. I get to journal about, having multiple, streams of income. I get to journal about, the feelings that I have, as I'm navigating my workspace, and I get to be a manager or a leader in my workspace, and I get to journal about, that experience. I get to journal about, the different dynamics that I have with my family members, all, have been gifts of sobriety and gifts of recovery. So journaling is a great contrary action to take that not only gives you a sense of release, but also gives you an opportunity to reflect and then in turn experience gratitude. Another great contrary action, especially around navigating feelings of anger, are taking deep breaths. I feel like, and not even I feel like, I believe that with time, everything shifts. With time, everything can either lessen, right, or increase, right? I don't believe that in time anything stays the same. So if I'm feeling angry, if I just take a moment to maybe take 10 deep breaths, chances are, the anger level that I felt before I took the 10 deep breaths, let's say I was at like a 9, chances are if I take just 10 deep breaths in a row, my anger will be reduced to at least a 7 or maybe even a 6, right? That's a great contrary action to navigate feelings of anger. Another great contrary action to navigate feelings of anger, especially if it's feelings of anger towards people. And this one is big. This one is something that I didn't have the spiritual or emotional maturity to do or to practice well into my third year of recovery and in sobriety. And that is the contrary action of praying for others. And I'm not talking about praying for my mom, which I do all the time anyway. I'm talking about praying for the people that make me upset, praying for people like my enemies, or people that offend me, or people that rub me the wrong way. This has been huge for me, right? Because if I think about it, if I'm angry at someone and I'm holding on to whatever situation or circumstance it is that caused me to be angry at them, and they are just going on about their life, living their life as they wish, and I'm holding on and harboring this anger and this resentment, this is doing nothing besides weighing me down. This anger, this resentment is doing nothing besides taking up spiritual space that I could rather be filling my spirit with something else that's healthy or that makes me happy. So practicing praying for the people that anger me or offend me has allowed me to live with a level of serenity that I never thought could happen, to be quite honest. Because what I get to do when I pray for people that I don't want to say enemies, because that just sounds, I don't know, it sounds weird. And I don't believe that I have enemies. I do believe that there are just unfortunate circumstances where people will rub me the wrong way, or I'll rub someone else the wrong way. But instead of holding on to all this anger, when I practice praying for them, what I get to do is practice acceptance, right? And when I practice acceptance, which is something that I've talked about in a previous video, once I've fully, stepped into a space of acceptance, I'm no longer holding on to anger, because I've come to terms that it is what it is. And what I know very clearly today is I have no control or power over people, places, and things. So me holding on to anger around how someone behaved is only going to slow me down, and it's only going to inhibit my spiritual process and my spiritual growth. So another, great contrary action, especially around dealing with feelings of anger or resentment towards people, are just simply praying for them. Just pray for them. Just let it go. Life is too short to be holding on to anger, especially when that anger is not going to do anything to that person we're angry towards. Nothing at all, right? What a waste of time. What a waste of spiritual space. But I had to do some work, some spiritual work to get to this place of emotional maturity where I could be open-minded to the idea that if I pray for someone, right, I can I had to be spiritually open-minded enough to know that if I pray for someone, even if they, have rubbed me the wrong way, it's actually the best course of action for the both of us. Because now I'm wishing them well, and I'm also freeing myself of taking up that spiritual space. Um, so another contrary action that's really important, especially if you're navigating feelings of grief or of sadness, is connection. Connection, connection, connection. It is my firm belief that the opposite of addiction is connection. I'm going to say that one more time. The opposite of addiction is connection, right? When I am feeling sad or when I'm experiencing grief, I'm very, very much triggered to numb my feelings away. Grief and sadness are not feelings that I like to sit in at all. So, what is the contrary action for me if I'm feeling sad? Or maybe if my sadness is grown and developed to a point where it's overwhelming and now it's slid into this area of depression, right? The contrary action is for me to seek help. The contrary action is for me to seek therapy. It is okay to ask for help. Men, it is okay to ask for help. Black men, it is okay to ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, especially if we're grieving. There are grief counselors. There are group grief meetings, group grief counseling. There are so many resources out there available to us if we practice the willingness to seek help. But we have to get out of this mindset that asking for help is a sign of weakness, because that old ideology, has really, really, really done an injustice to the community and to this generation and to my generation. Because when I was growing up, I knew of therapy, but I didn't know people that were in therapy. I heard of therapy, but I couldn't tell you people that were close to me that were in therapy. And we need to change that. And I think that, as men, we have to be allowed to experience sadness and experience grief, because we are humans. We're human beings at the end of the day. Of course, we're going to feel sad, and to deny that we are, or to say that we are exempt from those feelings, to say that men, black men especially, are exempt from feelings of sadness or grief, is a setup and a recipe for disaster. So taking a contrary action and saying, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need some help, is okay. That really and truly was my first contrary action before I even got sober, because I wanted to unalive myself. My disease and my active addiction created so much chaos and insanity that I didn't even have any more will to live anymore. So my very first contrary action, instead of unaliving myself, was seeking help. And that was the catalyst that led to me discovering what recovery and sobriety could look like. So taking a contrary action around sadness and around grief, and speaking up and saying, I'm struggling today, I need some help, will change your life. Well, absolutely. And I'm not saying this because, I've heard about it through someone else. I'm speaking from my own personal experience, right? Grief can very easily push me back into my active addiction. So my contrary action against addiction is connection, whether that is connecting with you, whether that is connecting with YouTube, and even today, I had a day off from work and I didn't necessarily feel like doing anything at all besides laying in bed, but I took the contrary action and I made a connection, and I'm sharing this idea with YouTube, with the world, because this is what I know to do. These are the tools that, working a strong program in recovery have afforded me. I know that when I'm feeling like, checking out, that I need to check in. Right. So whether that's making a connection with you, whether that's making a connection with God, my higher power, whether that's making a connection with a fellow or a friend or a mentor, whether that's making a connection with a family member, all of these contrary actions, these connections can reevaluate and really shape and shift the way our recovery experience could possibly be. So let me just take a minute to go back and just do a review of some of the contrary actions that have really helped save my life in recovery. So the first one is making connection, whether that's making a connection with you, making the connection with a fellow, making the connection with a family member, a friend, a mentor, making a connection. Another contrary action, exercise. Exercise, practicing self-care is a great contrary action, and it was very, very, very helpful and valuable in my early recovery, especially. Another great contrary action is prayer and meditation. Meditation is just simply quieting the mind. When we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling, like we got too much going on and like we're drowning in life's, situations or life's terms, we can seek help through quieting the mind through meditation. Another great contrary action is journaling, releasing the feelings, putting those feelings down on pen and paper, right? And then having a moment, later down the line in the future to review some of those journal entries and to reflect and then in turn experience gratitude. Another great contrary action, listening to music. When I'm feeling like I want to celebrate, when I'm feeling like I want to turn up, I turn up the volume and listen to some music, or even get in the studio and dance, or go out. We can hit the club as sober people, right? As long as our foundation is secure, right? So if it's whatever it is that your spirit is telling you, if you're feeling like you cannot continue to navigate life on life's terms with a sober mind and a sober spirit, try practicing some contrary actions. And the beautiful part about contrary actions is once you practice a contrary action consistently, that action no longer becomes contrary. And then what was once a contrary action is now second nature, right? So a lot of these contrary actions that I learned in early recovery are my second nature actions now, which are going to meetings, right? Which is prayer and meditation, which is exercise, which is making a connection, making connections with you, making connections with the world. These actions today in my life are no longer contrary. Now, praying for my enemies, that's still a very much contrary action today. I'm not going to lie. But it's helping and it's working. And I hope that I said something today that inspires you. I hope that I said something that was a little bit educating, a little bit thought inspiring and thought provoking. Thank you so much. Once again, please hit like, hit share, hit subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.